Good afternoon, everyone. This is Susan Thomas from MEX-PRE here in Wellington, Florida at Centerline Farms, and I'm so excited to be talking this afternoon to Lena Wedenmark. And I'm just going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little about herself. And she's originally from Sweden, and she's been living in Wellington for quite a few years now. Hi, Lena. Thank you so much for coming on this interview with me.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell us a little about yourself. How long have you been in Wellington? How many years have you been in the United States? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I came from Sweden in 1983 actually, and I was first in Pennsylvania for about a year and a half. And through my marriage I ended up down here in Florida. And I started off in Miami, which I had a very large barn down there. We had 60 horses. And I actually started a typical European riding school there, which is not so common in this country, especially not back then. And my interest has always been mainly dressage. So that's obviously something I also introduced here down in South Florida. We actually had the first recognized dressage show at my farm in 1985 in Miami. And I've been living here in Wellington. Actually been living here since 2000, but I've been coming up here since 1985. And back in that day, we did all the dressage shows at the jumper venue at WEF. And so I've seen a very big growth here from grassroots to what we have today, which is world-class international competition every year.
And so I've been really interesting to see at your barn. It's a very interesting mix of warm bloods and breeds. And I wondered if you could kind of tell us a little bit about how do you see the breed? Obviously, you know, that's what I do. You know, Puerto Español and Lusitanos. And how can you compare the Iberian sport horse to the warm bloods?
It's a little bit of a twofold answer because I've been involved with the Spanish horses now for, I would say, a little bit over 25 years. When I first started working with them, I obviously had really no experience with them. Because in Sweden at that, when I was growing up there and being trained, we did not have any Iberian horses there. So how do I compare them? I feel, to say 25 years ago, the Iberian horse was a much more baroque horse than it is today. Both in Spain and in Portugal, they have started to create a much more sport horse type that's actually very competitive nowadays in international dressage, which say 25 years ago, even maybe 10, 15 years ago, they really were not. I would say one of the first stallions that I feel really had all the pieces of a good sport horse and the brilliance of the Spanish horse would be Fuego, in my opinion. I also had an incredible opportunity where I was allowed to ride the stallion Atisa from Solero Bravo, which was an absolutely magnificent horse. And we are lucky enough, actually, I have a stallion that I work with that we had since he was 4, that is the same bloodline, meaning it's from Vinguero. So how do they compare nowadays? Like I said, they're much more sport horse oriented in the breeding now in Spain. So I think what we're feeling is we're feeling a horse with a little bit more nerve than they used to have. And their gaits have absolutely improved to have become bigger. More suspension in the gaits. I don't think that I think a lot of people think that because the Spanish horse is very often comfortable, that they might be then very suitable for amateur riders, which I agree with. But it's also a little bit harder with an Iberian horse to ride the proper trot in them, because they have a lot of different trots, a lot of different gears in their trots. And we deal with that because now we have so much experience, so we know how to develop the trot into the right trot. But in the beginning, I noticed that what I always felt was that they were way too quick off their feet. You know what I mean? And didn't really carry the trot through their backs. I work with a lot of Lusitanos as well. I see actually quite big difference between Lusitanos and PREs even.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you amplify that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the way I attribute it a little bit is that I think that the breeding of the Lusitano, I think for a very long time was very much focused for bullfighting, right? And so that created, and I rode the most amazing Lusitano that was actually bullfighted by one of the most famous bullfighters in Spain. And I got to ride this horse in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And it was the first time I've ever cantered a horse backwards. So because that comes from the instinct of fighting the bull.
Yes.
And I find that the Lusitano is a quicker horse as a ride, where the PRE is more naturally with suspension and a slower moving horse. That's the two things. And I always notice a PRE, when they have a passage, is usually very, very good. And I find the Lusitano has actually a better piaffe than the most PREs. And I also find it easier to put the flying changes into the Lusitano versus the PRE. But you just have to be patient with the Spanish horses as far as the changes go.
And do you think,
go ahead.
Do you think that's because they're a little bit quicker with their legs, or what do you
mean the Iberian horse? I mean the Lusitano? The Lusitano to me moves a little bit less through the back. It's a little bit more like a feeling that they're a little bit more not so much motion, and therefore you get more leg movement and therefore the quickness.
Okay, so that might make the flying change a little bit.
Yeah. And then I was gonna say something else now, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, I'm so
No, that's
sorry.
okay, because it was, I thought, hold on one second.
Well, when it comes back to you, just jump right in. So, in your experience, and you're a very classical trainer, do you train the warm bloods and Iberians a little bit differently, or is it classical, or it sounds like the trot perhaps you train that perhaps a little bit differently, or a little bit slower maybe?
Yes, I mean the thing is, in order to develop, in my opinion, their trot, yes, you have to ride, a much slower tempo. I mean, okay, you have to ride every horse in the right tempo to be in balance, but with the Spanish horse especially, I feel you must take the tempo down. You must make sure that they're moving diagonally front and back. And that's a little bit what I was going to say earlier with the canter and the changes in the PRE, is that they can very often have two rhythms behind and up front, right? Yes. So they are naturally still quicker in the front leg than they are in the hind leg. And then as a rider, we have to recognize that clearly and make sure that we always ride the gaits so that they are united.
Okay.
And so to me, hey baby, I don't feel it's that big of a difference depending on the breed you're riding, because I think each horse is an individual, and really the main ingredients are balance, and that they're united in all three gaits. And I just think that maybe with the Spanish horse, you need to manufacture the trot a little bit more than say a warm blood that has kind of one trot.
Okay.
Yeah, but a Spanish horse, you give an 8 and all of a sudden you have a ton of lift, and you have quicker, and then you have slower, and you have bigger, and you have shorter. So you have so many reactions within the gait that you have to really establish so that the horse learns to hold that on his own.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And as in any horse, obviously, the ingredient is self-carriage.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Excellent. Well, I so appreciate you taking the time out to talk with me, and look forward this week, everyone. We're going to have the whole week is going to be dedicated to videos of Lena teaching us how to longline. So stay tuned for those, and she will be speaking in English. We're going to have subtitles in Spanish. So, look forward to that. I think there are either going to be 4 or 5 videos this week on Lena teaching saddle bridle design. And I'm very excited because I'm leaving my well, now he's gelded, Endrino Las Lunas with Lena, and we're just so excited to work with her in the future, and you know, just can't wait to see what happens with Endrino. Look forward to that. Thank you.